you guys want to do the chocolate chip or the sugar cookies first?
By all appearances, Lee Scazzari is living a comfortable suburban life. She baked cookies one recent afternoon with her 4-year-old twins at her mom's place in Shirley, Long Island, about 65 miles east of New York City.
Okay.
Scazzari owns an SUV.
Bye.
The girls spend their days at a nice daycare center, and Scazzari works a full-time job.
A lot of people look at me and they judge me just by looking at me like, okay, well, she has a job, she has a home, and her kids look very well taken care of. Why would she need any help at all?
Scazzari needs help because by official standards, she and her daughters live in poverty. Her job as a certified medical assistant pays just over $19,000 a year and offers no benefits. So Scazzari's on Medicaid, gets food stamps, and a government subsidy to pay for childcare she could never otherwise afford. This 30-year-old single mom lives in that 2-bedroom house with her mother and pays rent. Her car has almost 200,000 miles on it and is in such bad shape, Scazzari says she's afraid to drive it.
I live paycheck to paycheck. That's what it is right now.
Poverty is a real problem in America. It is rampant throughout the inner city and other areas of the U.S. The United States has one of the worst rich-poor gaps of any developed country, and the problem is only getting worse. Robert Reich explains.
The typical male worker in 1978 was making around $48,000, adjusted for inflation, while the average person in the top 1% earned $390,000. Now fast forward. By 2010, the typical male worker earned even less than he did then, but the person at the top got more than twice as much as before. Today, the richest 400 Americans have more wealth than the bottom 150 million of us put together. Now think about it. 400 people have more wealth than half the population of the United States.
America is a society of opportunity. The American dream has always been to start at the bottom and get to the top, making as much money as you can. If this is the case, what's wrong with a rich-poor gap? Why should we be angry at those making more money than us? The answer is that the American dream hardly ever comes true. It's nearly impossible for those in poverty to make it up to the middle class, let alone the upper class. Jim Dimmick explains more about the rich-poor gap.
The traditional, what we could call Austrian school or neoliberal school of economics doesn't have a problem with the rich-poor gap because what you have is the idea that, well, if the people who are poor today, are making, more money than they were last year, that's good. So there shouldn't be a problem even if the people at the very top are making even more money, exponentially more. Since 1971, the people at the bottom half of the economic scale in the United States, their income has gone up about 16% in the last 30-some years, right? Now, that's barely above the rate of inflation. In fact, I don't think it is above the rate of inflation. That would be a less than 0.5% inflation a year for 30 years. So that means that if you were making, let's say, $25,000 a year, in 1979, well, you're probably making more now, but you're actually able to purchase less, right? And so that's a huge problem. When you go, let's say, buy new rims for your truck, okay, that means that, you know, you're giving a certain amount of money to the guy who puts the new rims on for you, to the company that makes those rims, right? Then you're taking your old rims and you're selling them on, you know, Craigslist, where you're putting those rims back into society. You're taking the money that you made from selling your old rims, and you're going to go buy something else, you know, maybe go take your girl out in your new truck with the new, or your truck with the new rims, take her out to a nice steak dinner, right? That money keeps turning over in the economy. That's why one of the things that we've seen is, you know, and this is this is one of those absolute unavoidable facts of economic growth. You simply cannot deny it. It's like denying that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It's an economic law. If you pay people more, they will buy more stuff. If they buy more stuff, then the economy grows. And again, this is basic market logic here. You know, this is not socialism. This is not some crazy left-wing theory. This is basic economics 101.
So, if it's such an obvious economic fact, why don't we fix it? Why don't we increase wages for the middle class? Why don't we cut taxes on the vast majority of people that live in the U.S.? The answer is sad but simple. It's the top 1% that control our country's government.
A perfect example of the influence that a small group of billionaires can have on the government is something in the tax code called a carried interest provision. It allows hedge fund and private equity managers like Steve Schwartzman to pay a 15% tax rate on their income, even though, unlike normal capital gains, they're not required to risk their own money.
When it's explained to people, they think it's crazy. The most highly paid financial executives get taxed at a rate lower than your mom and pop grocery. It is in the tax code because of the incredibly effective lobbying of the financial industry.
Why is it a problem that things like the tax code lean in favor of the rich? We've all heard them described as job creators on the radio or on TV. Well, that may not be true. The rich may not be job creators. That may be the middle class. Nick Hauer explains more.
It is astounding how significantly one idea can shape a society and its policies. Consider this one. If taxes on the rich go up, job creation will go down. This idea is an article of faith for Republicans and seldom challenged by Democrats, and has indeed shaped much of the economic landscape. But if there was no one around who could afford to buy what we had to sell, all those companies and all those jobs would have evaporated. That's why I can say with confidence that rich people don't create jobs, nor do businesses large or small. Jobs are a consequence of a circle of life-like feedback loop between customers and businesses.
So, we as middle-class Americans are the real job creators. When we buy stuff, it creates a demand for that item, which means that companies hire more workers to produce that, and the entire economy benefits. So, if this is the case, why do we have financial policies that favor the super rich? The answer is that they have most of the political power in America. They finance election campaigns and pay for attack ads, which make our politicians more likely to lend an ear when they have something to say. So, what can we do? What say do we, as middle-class Americans, have? The answer is in the fact that the 1% is only that, the 1%. We have strength in numbers. It's us that decide elections by voting, no matter how many ads have been put on TV. The most important thing we can do is stay informed, vote, and do our best to put someone in office who has our best interests in mind. It's only then that we can truly retake America.